Hello, and welcome to Just a Byte podcast, where we discuss dining, blogging, and social media. Your host is Malika Bowling, author, blogger, and president of the Association of Food Bloggers.
Hi, this is Malika Bowling with the Association of Food Bloggers, and this is the Just a Byte podcast. And today we're very lucky to be speaking with Beth Robinette, and she's had a very interesting history, different kinds of careers, and she's getting ready to go on an adventure, the adventure of a lifetime. So, Beth, if you could tell us a little bit about your history, your work history, and how you got into food and travel and all that good stuff.
Well, thanks, Malika, and I appreciate this opportunity. Anyone who knows me knows that every few years I just get kind of bored, and I basically reinvent myself. And I've done it several different times, and I got to tell you, I highly recommend it, because otherwise you get kind of bored. So I'm originally from a little farm in southern Indiana, and I had no idea then that I had it so good in terms of food. You know, It was an organic garden, but, we just called it the garden. It was grass-fed beef, but we just called it the cows.
Right.
Free-range chickens, and I really didn't realize how well I was eating then. My mom was a plain cook, but always excellent ingredients, but you grow up not realizing, what you've been exposed to. So food was always important. Not to mention, nobody in my family is happy unless they're at least 10 pounds overweight, and we are really happy people. So there's always that. But I went to college first for broadcasting, and I worked in that industry for about a decade. Loads of fun, learned a lot, and was exposed to a lot of different things. But worked in television, worked in radio, mostly in the Indiana and Illinois area. I was a weather girl, I was a news director, the full gamut. Then I went back to school, got a chemical engineering degree, and I worked in that field for a number of years. And then the last decade, I worked for the state of Georgia. I used a lot of my training skills for that. And 10 years is a long time for me to be in one place. And while working for the state was really nice, the truth is that I wanted to do something on my own. And so that was actually the reason that I started Atlanta Culinary Tours. It's why I got a website, a blog. Now I'm actually on my second blog now. But, I went back to that first love that I had as a kid, and I'm always going to have, and that is food and cuisine. In my experience, the easiest way to learn about a new culture is to start with their food. Everybody.
I agree.
And so that has made it a really good introduction. And I felt like I had a pretty good solid base with good food growing up. So.
That definitely answers it. And I should have said in our introduction, that's how we got to know each other, because I was writing a food blog and you had started Atlanta Culinary Tours, which is something that was definitely needed in the city for a long time. We have so many great restaurants, and there was just nobody that was doing any sort of tours to introduce people, especially new people that have moved to the city and just aren't sure about finding their way around. That's a perfect introduction to some of the fantastic restaurants we have here. And so I know I did several of your tours, and they were just fantastic. And so
it was so much fun. And you don't really always, you think you know who your audience is going to be when you start a business. That's true for a blog. It's true for any business at all. But you find out sometimes that you appeal to a niche that you hadn't really considered. Our customers for Atlanta Culinary Tour, and then hence my blog too, were people who actually lived in the Atlanta metro area, getting to know the neighborhood that they already live in. So like on a typical Atlanta Culinary Tour, we'd walk through a neighborhood, we'd go to 5 or 6 different restaurants, and they walk away knowing where they'd like to return, where they bring their buddies on a night out, where they bring their parents when they come to visit. Plus, they learned some history of the neighborhood, and it helped them feel far more comfortable area, and it worked out really well.
Yeah, it did. And especially I think that it was good for people who, they want to try some of the different ethnic restaurants. Like I know for us here in Atlanta, Buford Highway is our mecca of ethnic restaurants. But, if you're somebody who's not that familiar with all of those different kinds of foods, it can be kind of intimidating to walk in there and order something. And maybe some of us are not as brave as others to just go exploring like that, like somebody like you would. So it's great to have somebody like you that can take us on a tour and say, hey, this is something good to try here. And it gives you an introduction.
Just a little bit of guidance when we walk in. Nobody likes to feel clueless. We just don't. And so, if it's not your thing, then this is a great way to be introduced to a new restaurant, a new neighborhood, even a brand new cuisine. Yeah, it's out for a lot of people.
And then, so that's the perfect segue into my next question for you. What is your favorite type of food?
Well, for me, it is invariably the thing I've never eaten before.
That's a great answer.
People that can walk into a restaurant and order the same thing over and over again. I'm always going to order the next thing that I've never had. But if I had to get down to just one cuisine, it's hard not to love Italian or Spanish tapas because there's so much variety and so much flavor. So if I had to, that would be really hard, wouldn't it? If I had to just go one, it'd probably be the Spanish tapas. Just let me go, visit Italy once in a while, too. They're very close.
Oh, yeah, sure. You can't go wrong with either one of those choices.
Absolutely.
So now, living in Atlanta, we do have so many different fantastic, exceptional restaurants here. So do you have a go-to restaurant that is just your favorite? You're always going to get a terrific meal and service whenever you visit there?
Yeah, I think most people have the restaurant they go by themselves with, the restaurant they go to their buddies with, the restaurant that, maybe they bring guests from out of town. And, until just the last few years, those were all separate ones. And honestly, my favorite restaurant at the moment is still Barcelona Wine Bar. I have loved that place for the last, really since it opened. They were the focus of my Inland Park tour. And, they just always pleased. My very close second choice would have been Pachin, and I'm just so sorry to know that they are in the process of closing now after, I think, 8 years.
Yeah, I think it's been 8 years. That was a surprise to me.
And maybe they've decided that you can have anything you want, but you can't have everything. So perhaps they're just focusing their efforts.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Uh-huh.
So just to shift focus a little bit, Beth, let's talk about blogging and your business just a little bit more. Before you started, say, your blogging or Atlanta Culinary Tours, can you tell us one or two things that you wish you knew before you started the business or blogging, or both?
I wish that I had the courage of my convictions to do it alone. I started Atlanta Culinary Tours with a friend, and basically I drug them kicking and screaming into a business that they didn't really want to do. And then, of course, I'm unhappy because they don't really want to do this. And
they're unhappy, and you're unhappy.
Right. It was my fault from the very beginning. I kind of forced somebody into something. Their heart was not in it in the same way as mine. I should have had more faith in myself and my ability to figure things out.
Right. Yeah, I understand that. It's always easier if you can have a partner and somebody who helps you, but sometimes that just doesn't work out, especially if you're friends first.
A partnership is a marriage without love, okay?
Right.
And it's not easy. They're just really, really hard to do. And whenever I see partners working together well, I got to say, I'm happy for them. I'm proud because I know how difficult it is. If I spent all that time trying to figure everything out ahead of time, so that I thought I knew everything in order to start, I'd have never started.
Yes.
So I think people just sometimes need to say, I'm going to do it. But I will say I had no idea how many hours I would spend. It was all of my evenings and all of my weekends. And I'm not sorry for it at all. But, it was my social life, too. I worked a full-time job the whole time I had Atlanta Culinary tours.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, you don't realize about, all of the other aspects besides the actual tours itself, as you were doing, all the social media work and all the administrative work that goes into it. And even if you write a blog, you still have to have all the social media around it to drive traffic to your blog.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely do, because I knew really nothing about social media, for instance, and not a lot about how to get publicity. To be honest, I was lucky, and I just kept, falling forward. I started Atlantic Culinary tours without a blog initially, and then the blog was added shortly after because it became clear that was one of the things that was going to help drive business to my website. I sold all tickets through the website, not by phone, mail in, anything. So you really need to drive business to your website. And the other advantage that the blog gave me was that I could give more publicity to the restaurants who were on my tour. If somebody had a special going on, a special event, they changed their menu, you better believe that's going to show up on the blog.
Yeah, and that's part of your responsibility. It's not only doing the tours, but of course they want those people that go on the tours to bring their friends and their family back, as you said. Yeah. So it's important to share updates about what's going on with those restaurants. Now, I know that for me as an entrepreneur, and you touched on this a little bit, Beth, I just have to do everything myself. I have to figure out about new technology and how to keep up to date with everything. So, for me, if I don't know how to do something, a lot of times I will go to YouTube as one of my favorite resources.
I have learned so many things, particularly on how to deal with my WordPress blog. So go to YouTube and just search for things. It also gives you some great tax tips as well. I certainly could never do my blog without my iPhone. I used to carry a fancy camera, but my iPhone camera is most of the time good enough. It's not perfect, but there's two other pieces of technology that I'm kind of getting addicted to. My iPad Mini, I do love that. And I am doing most of my blogging there.
Really?
I'm waiting for dessert to arrive at a restaurant. I might be typing up, on my blog. But the thing I had to learn the hard way to get used to is the off button. And I'll bet you know just what I'm talking about, because...
Oh, disconnecting from everything?
Disconnect. Got to do it once in a while, because otherwise you're working all the time, constant. And I found that I needed to decompress. I might have to not only turn the phone off, but like put it in another room, or maybe, heaven forbid, leave it in the house and go out without it once in a while.
Oh my gosh!
I know, it's shocking, isn't it?
It is shocking. I feel like I'm missing a piece of me if I don't have my smartphone with me.
I do too. But I found that I'm not talking about for hours every day, but I'm saying once in a while, you need to disconnect. It is okay. Trust me, it's me I'm trying to convince with this speech. It is okay not to respond to every text message and email that second.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've actually had conversations with other fellow bloggers, and we've just talked about how you miss out on the moments that you're actually with people because you want to tweet this picture that you just took, and you're really missing out on important moments with friends and family because you just want to be so socially connected all the time. So yeah, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
You need to experience where you are. It's like when you see the stereotype of the Japanese tourist. They rush out of the car, they stand in front of the Grand Canyon with the camera in front of their face, they take a half dozen photos, and they rush back in the car, and they never saw the Grand Canyon. All they did was take 6 photographs and then rush back in.
If I didn't tweet it, did it really happen?
there you go. There you go.
Now, I know that you have written a couple books, and so I would like you to tell us about them.
How sweet of you to say that. So I love to travel and I love to eat. So my first book is, and they're both are available on Amazon, they're ebooks, and there will be many more, and that's one of the reasons for my current blog. But the first book that I wrote is on how to travel solo, saving money, security, and learning, what you want in a trip. But so many women will not travel because they don't have somebody to go with. And I found that I really enjoyed going alone. The first few times it was a little scary, sure. But it's how to get over that hurdle and go ahead and buy the ticket or make the reservation, but go and enjoy yourself. You may find out that traveling alone turns out to be what you love best. My second book, and there'll be more in this series, but my second book is on some of the basic foods in Vietnamese foods, Vietnamese cuisine. It's an introduction to that cuisine.
I thought that when I asked you, I thought that you were going to say your favorite cuisine was Vietnamese cuisine because of the book.
There's just so much great food in so many different cultures. Hard not to love it. But I found that Vietnamese food sounded scary to a lot of people. And it turns out that, you narrow it down to maybe the top dozen different items that you're likely to see on a menu, and suddenly it's something you can wrap your brain around. Again, you want to learn about a culture? A good place to start is their food, because everybody eats.
Right.
Yeah? So those are my two books. They're available on my current blog, which is Wander for Life. I'm pretty excited about that. And as you might imagine, with a title like Wander for Life, it's a lot about travel blogging with a focus, of course, on the cuisine.
And a lot of bloggers think that they have to be rewriting recipes or they have to be doing reviews, and that's just not the case. I mean, you can have a blog that is about two different things, and I think that travel and food go hand in hand. So I think that's perfect, and I'm looking forward to keeping up with your adventures. I saw that you just went to Iceland. And
I did. I was there in November. Horrible weather, great people, and I ate a few things that were completely new. For instance, fermented shark. They called it shark cheese there, but it's basically shark that's been buried in sand for about 9 months. Not as bad as you might imagine. The smell wasn't as bad as you might guess.
Doesn't sound that great. You're not really selling it, Beth.
You know what it tasted like was bacon fat.
Oh, really? Okay.
No sense to me. And not cured bacon, just really pork belly, but not cured. But it had a very creamy, cheesy texture. I won't say it tasted like cheese, but a very creamy texture. I also got to eat whale for the first time. This is minke whale, which is a whale that is not endangered. Check that out first. But there just aren't very many places that you can eat whale. So those were two of the fun things that I got to eat when I was in Iceland.
Well, good.
And my next adventure, which starts literally in days, is going to take me about 6 months. Usually I'm off to some foreign country, but the country I'm discovering now is the United States. I'm going to hike the entire Appalachian Trail. So that's 14 states, starting in Georgia, Springer Mountain, Georgia, which is near Dutchess and Dahlonega, if you're familiar with North Georgia. And I'm going to walk all the way to Maine.
Oh, my gosh, Beth.
200 miles. I figure I'm crazy.
Wow. So you're going to document your experience? Are you going to be tweeting and Instagramming your pictures while you're on the trail?
And again, thanks to my iPhone, you're frankly much more connected even when you're in the wilderness than you used to be. Now, I'll probably only be able to tweet and Instagram and add to my blog when I'm on top of a mountain or I'm in town. In fact, blog posts will probably only be when I'm in town. But, that turns out to be every 4 or 5 days. because I'll walk to the next town and resupply, and I probably am going to have to hitchhike a little. My mother is going to have a coronary over there. But it's going to be a true adventure.
Yeah, I bet I'm excited for you.
You know, I've wanted to do it for a long time, but it meant that I had to shed a lot of things from my life. I sold my house. I've given away most of my furniture. I sold Atlanta Culinary tours. I'm down to less than a carload of belongings, and I'll probably never own much more than what I own now because I had to quit my job. And my blog is making it possible to bring in some income while I'm hiking on the trail, because that's where I sell my books, and there's some advertising.
Are you getting sponsors for this trip at all?
I've gotten some free items, some of my gear. So I've gotten some sponsors. REI has been very kind to me, I might add.
That's neat.
So, so I'm pretty happy about that. And I think it's something that anytime you've got a blogger or planning an adventure, the worst they can do is say no. I did get a lot of no's, but I got a yes from the company I most wanted to get a yes from. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. I know with me, I'm always pitching too, and that's one of the things that you don't realize when you're a blogger about. You have to pitch too. If you want to get known and be successful, you've got to be pitching companies, and you have to be thinking about ideas for how you guys can work together.
Exactly, and you must look at it from their standpoint. What is in it for them?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. They always want to know that. What's in it? Everybody wants to know that. What's in it for me? Why should I do this? Why should I sponsor you? Why should I support you? So we've gone, I know, way over time than what I said we would. But I just have one last question for you, and I know that we've sort of hit on this before, but do you have any advice for aspiring bloggers? Anything that maybe you wish you had known when you first started blogging?
My real advice is do it because you love to do it. Of course, you end up getting more things out of it than you realize you're going to. But if you're doing it only for the money, you're probably going to be miserable. You do need to love your topic. You do need to love writing. You do need being stuck in a room with a computer and, trying to come up with solid content on a very regular basis. But once you've found that thing that you love enough that you want to write solid content about it, don't let anything stop you. Just go right out and do it. Don't know how to get a domain name? You know what? You can learn that. Thank God for YouTube.
Right.
Don't know if that sentence is spelled correctly. Great. Do a grammar check. Spell check. Is that not one of the great inventions?
Oh, it is. Thank goodness for that. Especially even if you don't know how to spell something, you can just type it into Google, and Google will correct it for you, which is really fantastic.
That is a wonderful thing. I am let's call it a creative speller.
Just like what you were saying before, if you can study and study and study and then just never do anything. But sometimes with this business, especially blogging, you just have to jump into it and get started. Otherwise, you just never will. And you just can't, let fear hold you back.
I love it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Beth, for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk with us today. And again, this is Beth Robinette we've been talking with, and her exceptional blog is Wonder for Life.
Wonder for Life, yeah. Good opportunity.
Yeah, thank you, Beth. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us, and I wish you the best on your adventure. And I'm going to be keeping up with you and to see what fun stuff you're getting into over the next several months. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.